The fraudster behind the company, Theranos, was sentenced to 11 years in prison on Friday. And here's more details about the case and the punishment that was handed down. The sentence imposed by U.S. District Judge Edward Davila was shorter than the 15-year penalty requested by federal prosecutors, but far tougher than the leniency her legal team sought for the mother of a year-old son with another child on the way. Holmes was CEO throughout the company's turbulent 15-year history, was convicted in January in the scheme, which revolved around the company's claim to have developed a medical device that could detect a multitude of diseases and conditions from a few drops of blood. And here is some more backstory about Holmes. In 2014, Elizabeth Holmes, then 30 years old, was on top of the world, a Stanford University dropout. She had founded a company valued at $9 billion for supposedly bringing about a revolution in diagnosing diseases. Here's Holmes herself peddling the supposedly groundbreaking advancement in 2015 in an interview with Jim Cramer. Watch this.
So this is what we call the nanotainer, which is a very small tube that's designed to replace the big vials that you take out of your arm when you draw blood traditionally with a tiny drop that can come from a finger. The goal is to empower the individual. We believe strongly that the future of healthcare is in enabling the individual to have the information that they need to take ownership of their health, and making lab information, which drives 80% of clinical decisions, more accessible by making it as painless as possible, making it incredibly inexpensive, and providing transparency around pricing so that people know before they buy a healthcare service how much it's going to cost them. We can begin to make it possible to enfranchise the individual and get them engaged.
Her infamy knows no bounds. She impressed. She impressed him so much. Cramer had this to say. Watch.
To me, it's reasonable to compare you, I usually don't do this, to Steve Jobs and what he did for computing. I regard you as a visionary, next generation person.
She was selling that snake oil, baby. She did. And Cramer wasn't alone in his belief in Holmes. Here are some of the high profile investors of Theranos. Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle, the Walton family from Walmart, their Walmart owners, Rupert Murdoch, Fox News owner, and Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots. But as the saying goes, appearances can be deceiving, or another one, do not judge a book by its cover. It began to unravel in 2015 when a whistleblower raised concerns about Theranos' flagship testing device, the Edison. The Wall Street Journal wrote a series of damning exposés claiming the results were unreliable and that the firm had been using commercially available machines made by other manufacturers for most of its testing. Lawsuits piled up, partners cut ties, and in 2016, US regulators banned Holmes from operating a blood testing service for 2 years. In 2018, Theranos was dissolved. Jessica, it seems like, for the good that she was claiming to do and the needs being so great, especially telling people that they had something that could detect diseases, this really makes her the low of the low.
Absolutely, yeah, and so common in the pharmaceutical industry. And I would argue that every single billionaire in this country can be sued for fraud. I mean, fraud is deception for financial gain. And they've deceived people into believing their labor is worth $7.25 an hour. That is not true. They're making so much money off of paying them to work for an hour. And that is fraud, I would argue. That is deception for their financial gain, for their profit, to exploit people by paying them far less than their labor is worth, to take everything they create in that amount of time and sell it for oftentimes prices that are more than what we should be charging people, especially in things things like the healthcare industry. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, hopefully Elizabeth Holmes will not be the first and only billionaire indicted for fraud here.
You better say that. It just seems like when something impacts the ultra wealthy, then people go to jail or go to prison in her case. And former Theranos employees knew that this was doomed from the get-go. Watch this.
Essentially, the technology that we were promising to our patients and everyone else didn't work.
I knew it was never gonna work, but we were so siloed at Theranos that I thought it was possible that something was going on in a different lab that would make it all work.
Technology doesn't lie. But yes, the people who build technology can lie.
Well said, technology does not lie, but the people building that technology certainly can. And those employees certainly knew what was going on. This is another example of corporate greed inserting itself into an industry that should only be for those who truly want to invest in saving lives and improving and maintaining the well-being of society. We truly hope Holmes has learned her lesson. She'll have a whole lot of time to think about this stuff while she's in prison.